Hi everybody, I'm Chef Jake with Harmons Cooking School here in Station Park in Farmington, Utah. Today we're going to be working on a kids recipe. It's going to be chicken tenders with honey mustard. This recipe is great for you kids to do on your own if you're a little older. If you're a little younger, you will need some adult supervision and some help in the kitchen today. We're going to be dealing with hot oil, and it can be very dangerous unless you're practicing very safe techniques and very safe practices with the hot oil. So to start with today, we have our Harmons Dietitian's Choice chicken strips. The butchers downstairs can cut this for you. They're happy to do that. You can also just buy whole chicken breasts and have your parents cut it with you at home. It'd be a good way to learn that technique. But if you are in a rush, no worries. The butchers are happy to cut these chicken strips for us. So in addition to the chicken, one thing we need is an instant read thermometer. It can be digital or it can be the old dial kind. You'll need that to check the temperature of the chicken tenders to make sure they're properly done. And we'll talk more about temperature. Another thing, hand washing is super important in this type of cooking practice. You want to make sure you have clean hands to start, and then once we've handled the raw chicken and we're done handling the raw chicken, we'll be washing our hands again to make sure that we're maintaining proper sanitation. Everybody knows at this point hand washing is very important, and it's always been important in food. So let's make sure we're practicing good hygiene. So I will go ahead and open up our Harmons chicken tenders. And what we want to do with this process, we want to have a wet hand and a dry hand. Now that refers to the dry hand is going to be using for the breadcrumbs and for the flour. The wet hand is going to go into the eggs. So the process here is to dip the chicken into the flour, then into the eggs, then into the breadcrumbs, then into some hot oil. We've had this heating up for about 5 minutes now. Should be around 300 degrees Fahrenheit is what you want your oil to be at. So let's start with our chicken. We want to go ahead and place 3 or 4 of those in this pan here. Pie tins work great for this because you can just throw them away afterwards. We don't want to save any of this. Once it has touched raw chicken, it is essentially contaminated, and we want to dispose of it as soon as we're done working on this recipe. It's another hygiene, sanitation thing to be aware of. So notice I'm getting some flour stuck to my fingers here. This is going to become my wet hand. My right hand will be the wet hand that I use to put the chicken into the egg wash next. So after it's gone into the flour, we want to make sure it's just a very thin coating on the outside of the chicken. It doesn't need to be very thick. And the reason you want flour on there, it's going to help the egg adhere to it. Think of the egg as a glue that then is going to hold on your breadcrumbs. So after we've got a thin coating of flour, we want to kind of just pat that off, make sure we don't have any bald spots, and then it can go into the egg. Just very quickly with our wet hand, we want to twist it through the egg, place it in here, and then with our dry hand, we're going to coat it with breadcrumbs. After we've had it coated in breadcrumbs thoroughly, just give it a little shake to take the excess off, and then we want to lay it into the pan very gently, placing it away from us. That is going to stop the oil from splashing on you, and this is where having a parent around to help you with this is going to be very important. You want to make sure that you're being very careful with the oil, have the pan handle turned in so you don't bump it off and knock it down. Someone could get hurt very seriously if we're not very careful with this part. Okay, back to the chicken. We're just going to put the rest of it into the egg. And we'll get these little guys that we missed here. Just give those a nice coating in flour. And then quick dip in the egg into the breadcrumbs. Now you can do these one at a time if you like. I prefer to work in batches and get them all done at once. That way our chicken is cooking at the same time. It'll all be done at the same time. It's a big thing in our cooking processes. We want things to finish at the same time. All right, now we will take our dry hand again and just coat these in the breadcrumbs, again laying them away from us in the pan. We just want to make sure that it's a thin coating. We want to make sure it's coated, but it doesn't need to be heavy on there. The more breadcrumbs you get on there, the harder it's going to be for them to stay on when it goes in the oil. So a thin coating is best. Less is more here, guys. And again, we're just laying these into the pan very gently down to our last 2. And we can just push that aside, make a little room in there. Get the very last one in. And now we're going to give this a little bit of heat. As we've added the chicken to the pan, it's cooled the oil down. The oil needs to be hot enough that it starts cooking the outside and finishing off those breadcrumbs so it seals on there and sticks to the chicken. So I've turned that up just to a medium now. As you can see, it's kind of simmering in that oil. We will take our pie tins and just toss those into the trash at this point. And now I'm going to go ahead and wash my hands. Again, making sure that we're handling food properly and practicing proper hygiene. And you can sing the ABCs, you can sing happy birthday. There's all kinds of videos out there right now that tell you what you can sing while you wash your hands to make sure you're washing them for the proper amount of time. Make sure you get the tops in between your fingers all over. And then we'll just take a nice clean towel. We will clean up our counter. Working clean is always a good idea. It gives you more room to do more work. So next, guys, we're going to make our honey mustard. We're going to make honey mustard from scratch here today. And we have just 3 ingredients. It's a very simple, very easy recipe. We have some maple vinegar, and that is just maple syrup that's been aged into a vinegar. We have our local hive honey here. You can buy this at Harmons. It's fantastic honey. Very good flavor and made locally here in Utah. And then we have some stone ground Dijon mustard. It is important that the honey be at room temperature when you go to use it. You could also take this little dish of honey and microwave it. That would be sufficient too. You just don't want it too hot. So the idea here is we're going to mix the honey and the vinegar together to thin the honey out so it doesn't stay in big clumps. Then we will slowly add our mustard in, whisk it together, and we will be ready to dip our chicken tenders into it. So I'm just going to take our honey here and put it into this large metal bowl. And you can hear the chicken sizzling away. It's starting to get nice and brown. We will want to flip the chicken at some point, but not quite yet. All right. Next, we will add our vinegar to the honey, and then we'll just take a whisk, and we want to stir that around, kind of incorporating those two together. In the beginning, it'll look like it's starting to stick, but that vinegar is acidic, and it'll actually soften up the honey very nicely. And now we have almost like a sauce rather than that thick honey. Next, we will take our mustard, stone ground mustard, as I said before, add that right in. We'll just give that a quick whisk. And that can get poured right back into this little portion cup here. If you have one of these at home, that's a great way to serve this. And as you can see, it's fairly saucy. You don't want it to be super thick, just enough that it gets on the outside of your chicken tenders. This is going to be a lot more flavorful than the honey mustard you buy in a jar. So a little goes a long way with this, guys. Just go ahead and set that off to the side. And now our chicken tenders are cooked on one side, so the first side is cooked. At this point, we want to go ahead and flip them. You'll take some tongs and just gently grab, and again, lay it down in the pan away from you rather than towards you. This keeps the oil from splashing on you. It is very hot. I promise you don't want to find out what it feels like. If they get stuck, just be very careful and gentle with them. Flip them over. All right, we're about just 2 minutes away here. And at this point, what we want to do is just let the chicken cook a little longer. We will take our instant read thermometer here, and this will give us an idea. The chicken needs to be 165 degrees inside. So if we take our thermometer here, it says it's 89 degrees. It's fairly warm in here because we've been cooking. We'll go ahead and insert that into the thickest part of the chicken. And I'm taking a look here now. We are at 160. We'll look at another one here that's a little larger that hasn't been in there quite as long, and that one's only at 130. So we need just a little longer. The smaller ones are going to cook a little faster, and that's why we have this here. This is a sheet pan with some parchment paper. We're just going to move the chicken over to that when it's done. Another alternative here you could do is heat your oven to about 350 degrees. Once your chicken has been browned properly, even if it's not cooked fully inside, you could place it on this sheet pan, put it in the oven for about 10 minutes, and it'll finish cooking inside as well. That way you can start cleaning up your kitchen and moving on to other things. But for our purposes today, we're going to focus on keeping it in this pan, in this oil here. And I'm just going to give it another little check. Looks like almost all of them are about ready. We're just at 160, so not long now, and we should be able to take these out. And again, you want to insert that into the thickest part of the chicken. That part will be the hardest to get cooked. So the thicker the part of the chicken, that's where you want to take the temperature from. Okay, we just have that one really thick one that is taking a minute, so we will take the other guys out of the pan here, and we'll just gently place them on this parchment paper. We'll move this one into the center and let it finish. It's a big piece of chicken, so it's going to take just a little bit longer than those smaller portions. Now, you don't want to eat the chicken right away. It's going to be very hot. I would recommend letting it cool for at least 5 minutes, if not 10. It'll still be nice and warm inside, nice and juicy when you get to it. You don't want to burn your tongue on it. I know it's very exciting. They look really nice. They look really good. We'll just give it a couple minutes. I'm going to grab a plate to put those on, and we'll set our honey mustard off to the side. Now that the oil has drained off of these a little bit, we can plate those. This is a fun recipe to work on together, guys. If you have brothers and sisters at home, make it a team, and somebody cook the chicken, somebody bread the chicken, somebody make the honey mustard. You'll have lunch ready in no time. Looks like our last piece of chicken's ready. We're just going to take the temperature here. All right, 165 degrees on that one as well. And again, we'll put it on the pan to drain it. Make sure we turn the oil off. And the very last thing to remember, guys, is we don't want to do anything with this oil until it's cooled off. We'll dispose of it in the garbage, not down your sink, and we'll let it cool off till it's about room temperature. Maybe mom and dad can help out with that too. This is our finished product here, guys. We're ready for lunch. Chicken tenders with honey mustard, homemade, only took a few minutes, and it's a lot of fun. If you have any questions, feel free to look us up, harmonsgrocery.com. Happy cooking and enjoy.